squeaky.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
We
Hey,
want to welcome
hi.
Billie Gloom back again. She was with us last week. She's from UPWARD Dogology. We met Billie actually on LinkedIn, and we had a great show last week. So we thought, well, we're going to bring Billie back because we just didn't have enough time. There was so much to talk about. We talked about the importance of cognitive behavioral therapy, and it seemed as though Roman and Billie were really working very well together and talking about how this all works. Yeah, how this all works. And now we're going on to an additional show. So Billie, if you wouldn't mind, can you tell us about what it is that you do as an expert in behavior cognitive behavioral therapy?
Thank you
Canine.
so much. I am
Okay.
just so honored that you asked me back. I'm just so thrilled. And yeah, we all connected really well last week. I hope everyone here gets a chance to see that show. It was fantastic. And Ron, I know you were there, who just popped in. So I am a behaviorist. So I do work with dogs. I work with people one-on-one. I work with dogs. I also share cognitive behavioral therapy on platforms like this and talk about it, which is my main goal, to get it mainstream and what cognitive behavioral therapy is in my world. When I work with dogs over the age of 6 months, with a lot of them being rescued and adopted dogs or ones with checkered past or unconditional upbringings, or they may have been brought into a home right from puppyhood, with everyone having the best of intentions and doing everything right in their socialization and their dog training. Then the dog hits that adolescent stage. And what commonly works, traditional methods, conventional methods, using conditioning techniques, often falls short with dogs over the age of 6 months. And it's very common for that to happen, and people blame themselves. They're not sure what to do. They're feeling lost and frustrated. We switch over to cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's a different platform. It's a different way of working with dogs. So the platform of conditioning methods is designed to teach right from wrong, which is why it's so amazing with puppies. But clean slate, teaching right from wrong. It also does work with some dogs. Cognitive behavioral therapy takes the approach that the dogs have preconceived thought patterns, that perhaps they even know right from wrong. They know what you're asking them to do. They don't care. Sometimes they're just flipping you the bird. Sometimes they're nervous, they're scared, they have anxiety, they have fear, or they simply know what works for them. And they've come from the street and they've learned what works. They've learned what they've had to do to achieve their goal. There's a number of different reasons. So cognitive behavioral therapy addresses the reason for the behavior and doesn't focus on the negative behavior. It takes a holistic approach, which is where Roman and I completely connect. And it works off the platform of changing perception to change behavior. So it provides options. It allows the dogs to work things through on their own. It starts out with a bond. It starts out with platform skills. And it works with dogs that way. So it's a change of mindset, changing the dog's perception of the people and changing the dog's perception of their need to do the behavior.
Okay. Now, Roman, would you just add on to that a little bit about when someone comes to you, how do you know that they need this type of behavior?
Can you repeat the question?
Well, is there a specific, or are there specific triggers that happen that you think, okay, we're going to provide this therapy to this particular dog? Are there some signals, some signs?
Well, first of all, we come from the assumption, or I come from the assumption, and likely Billy too, that a dog naturally will perform on his best mindset a behavior that works best for the dog. And we have to see the dogs all into behaviors because that will help them evolve and survive. So what we consider as wrong doesn't mean it's wrong for the dog, because otherwise he wouldn't do it. There is no wrong from the dog's perspective. It's nothing wrong with me trying the best unless I know about it and do it consciously wrong for to do a damage. But there is also a reason behind that. So we always see a reason for the dog thinking about something that causes an emotion to come up, which causes then a behavior to occur, right? And at the same time, if we start judging each individual corner, then we're going in the wrong direction. And what Billy does very well, and we're coming from the same angle, is that no matter what the dog does, we shouldn't judge it. We should try to find out why the dog thought that would be a good solution to solve his problem, and how can we change the thought in a better direction that's beneficial for him and for us. Because we cannot just please the person who has the dog. We call them sometimes the owner, which I disagree with, because we are co-living in an environment, so we are both in the same house. At the same time, the person would be a guardian and not the owner in that case. So we have to adjust certain mindsets on both sides, how the dog thinks about the person and how the person thinks about the dog. And this is where Bill does very well. She's addressing the issue on both sides.
Right.
And both of them have to go through therapy. It's a family therapy, no matter how you want to
Yeah,
it.
right.
So I would say no matter what cause you have dealing with a dog from a behavior perspective, cognitive therapy is a big part of it. It's not the only part. There are other aspects of that, like healing, food healing, or food medicine, or health conditions. All these aspects come together, but the general core exercise would be coming from a behavior therapy perspective.
Okay, now the one question I have is, after last week's show, we had a number of people come forward and they asked this question. Well, my dog trainer doesn't do cognitive behavioral therapy. How come? So let's clarify what the difference is between a dog trainer and a dog behaviorist. Go ahead, Billy.
Well, I think the big reason why their trainers are not familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy is because the system isn't. And the system needs to take that on and to learn it and to allow trainers to say it's okay to include other forms of non-aversive effective methods into mainstream dog training or dog education or dog rearing or integrating rescued dogs in. And I think a big push, which is a good push, is away from the negative reinforcement. And that's been dominating the dog training scene for quite some time, which is good. We're saying, okay, we don't want to do aversive methods, incorporating perhaps, if one is a balanced trainer, some positive correction or positive punishment, if that's their style, whatever their style is. And then there's also conditioning and classical, counter conditioning and classical, but they're all remaining under the conditioning umbrella. So until mainstream dog training, and truthfully, I'm not even sure who that is. I mean, those people that ask me, how come my trainer, most of my clients have had 2 or 3 trainers before hiring me, and it wasn't the trainer's fault. The trainer was a good trainer, certified and good and experienced. It's that their method is grounded in conditioning, the platform of conditioning methods, however they choose to do that. And the dog, getting back to your question to Roman, the dog prefers CBT. The dog just isn't taking to conditioning methods, isn't taking to reinforcements, and isn't taking to what they are trying to teach the dog. And that can be learned a number of ways. One, if you just know, you're looking at your dog, you might be, some of those people that called in might be very knowledgeable on conditioning techniques and knowledgeable on dog behavior in general. And then they get this one dog that it's just not working. That would be your sign that you would need to switch your method. Not switch your reinforcement, And that's what's happening is, oh, the dog trainer's not doing it right. The person isn't applying it properly, or they're not using the right reinforcement. Possibly they just need to switch to CBT. So my goal is to make it mainstream. So I always like to ask those people, who do you look to? I mean, obviously they watch this show, so they're looking to your show, which is great. But who do they look to that they would feel would, a platform for me to teach that, whether it's with people here, with the platform, or that's my next stage, is to teach it on a larger scale, to teach it to trainers, and to make it more mainstream, so that mindset is already there. That change in mindset it just becomes normal, where you have perhaps a puppy, you're doing your conditioning methods, all is going well, you hit that adolescent stage. And what I mean by that is somewhere between 6 and 8 months, people will notice their dog, what was working before isn't working, or suddenly they're back to grabbing socks when they know it's wrong to grab socks.
Right.
Or they're starting to get a little aggressive, a little stubborn. So again, just like a child from 3 to 4, you want to harness those skills, because at 3, a child, oh, you want me to share? Sharing's great. Okay, I'm going to take my crayons over to my sister. And then they get all happy that they shared. And then at 4 years old, the child starts saying, I don't want to share.
Yeah.
What's in it for me? What happens if I don't share?
Mine.
Yeah. So you need to start providing options and working through it differently and talking to them differently. And that's when you're harnessing those cognitive skills. And what I mean by those is, well, there's a list of cognitive skills, of which emotional intelligence is one, but also just the ability to make decisions on their own, whether that's a child or an adult or a dog. To, they'll learn and start thinking things through, such as a puppy, when you want them to stop playing ball because you want to start cooking dinner or something, you might be able to take that ball and throw a treat down the hallway.
Yeah.
And then put the ball in the cupboard, and the dog gets the treat, and the little puppy's like, oh, I forgot all about the ball. But then when they start getting older, they either don't go for the treat because they know you're going to hide the ball.
Yeah.
Or they go get the treat, come back, and then jump at the cupboard or jump at you because they know you. That's cognitive skills. Object permanence, right? That's the science of it, would be, object permanence or object differentiation. So they know a positive versus a negative, or if you hide an object. And there's scientific studies that prove this. So that was a very long answer to your question, but so that would be the kind of dogs that I would work with. And I think trainers would I think they'd love it, because they would incorporate it in with their conditioning, and they'd be able to say, maybe start with some conditioning and learn what dog that they would go over to cognitive behavioral therapy, more of a holistic approach, a lot of what Roman was talking about, and follow that platform. And then they'd be able to provide everything to their clients. So I am looking to teach it on a larger scale. I'm just, I guess, waiting for that right time to do that, or the right connection and collaboration.
Okay. Well, Billie, we've talked last week that we wanted to talk about some of the the dogs that you have helped. So we're going to go into that. But first, we have a question here from Sharon. She says, I have a Yorkshire Terrier that has separation anxiety. It was already present when I got him at the age of 2 years old. It was caused by the original person who purchased him from the breeder. You cannot put him in a crate. He gets angry. Apparently, Jade was put in a crate at the age of 12 weeks and left in there too long. Jade is almost 6 now. So I think, Roman, let's go with you on this. Are you asking Sharon, how do you resolve separation anxiety? Do you use cognitive behavioral therapy with that?
Well, I'm just giving heads up. I will not be able to answer the question what to do with a particular dog. But we need to see separation anxiety as a fear. And unless we know exactly the history, it's hard for us to identify how exactly it happened there. I see many people reaching out and says, the dog was being done this and that prior my adoption, and therefore that's why the dog doesn't like this or that, or becomes aggressive, and then we project our personal emotions
Yes.
to that.
Yeah.
And so I have seen people who said, "Oh, my dog hates his crate. Somebody has been abused him." And then if I need to do confinement training, which I don't like using the term crate because the crate of concept is just a transportation system, not really a containment. Um, the dog goes right in there, and we have fun doing stuff and being in separation between one and the other. Um, we need to be very careful how we address things, and continuing a little bit Bill's conversation that the classical conditioning is coming out of a dark age where we thought the dogs only learn what we put in there and then that's what we get out. And then with conditioning, we're going to condition the dog to like it. In other words, me sitting next to my abuser, if he pays me a lot of money and gives me a lot of food, I'm going to like him at the end. So we
Yeah.
recognize soon enough the dogs have emotions, are cognitive, very aware, and they're emotionally intelligent, sentient beings. So this classical conditioning not always work. And this is where then cognitive behavior therapy comes in, understanding that a dog is conscious, has thoughts, has emotions, complex emotions, just like a 5-year-old plus. And we cannot just condition it out. We cannot just tell him like it, whether you like it or not, and here's some food to get over it, right? And so if we're going back to the separation anxiety part, separation anxiety can be conditioned by the owner who has the dog, and no offense, it not goes to the person who just explained about it. But once you adopt a dog and you need to confine him while the dog is happy being in your presence, and all of a sudden you separate the dog, close the gate, and walk away, we're dealing here with two things that happen at the same time. The first one is we have a primary and secondary reinforcer, right? So the first one is a positive reinforcer. The second one is a positive punisher. So the dog is happy to be with you. When you put him in a crate, the dog is happy about that, and then you close the door and leave. And then you have a vicious circle. The dog, next time he wants to go in a crate, he's not stupid. He's gonna see you leaving, or like, oh, you don't want me with you. You don't like me. What did I do
Right.
wrong? And the dog would start resisting going in the crate, which we see he's angry. But the anger, it is angry, but not with the way we think about it is. The dog is just frustrated. He feels not justified because he wants to be with his partner, and the partner doesn't want him to be with you. So we have a relationship issue coming up. And this is where cognitive therapy comes in again to show in both directions, hey, your dog is not angry at you. Your dog is
Right.
frustrated because he wants to be with you. You create that condition, the dog feels upset about it. And how can we address that part? How can we
Right.
help the dog to feel confident and change his mindset, why he has to go in a crate and what's beneficial for him, and how he can feel differently going to the crate by changing the way he thinks about what's going to happen once the door closes. At the same time, we have to see the our client perspective. Why would the dog put in the crate or in the confined place? Why is the dog not staying outside? What is our fear coming in? And dogs are very smart about feeling our emotions. If I feel guilty doing what I'm doing, then a dog will question me, why then you're doing it? And I
Yeah.
know
Right.
people
Yeah.
says, and we have many trainers complaining about it, but oh, you're humanizing dogs. No,
Yeah.
no, we're not humanizing dogs. We just are aware that dogs are mammals, just like we are, with all these broad fossum of emotions. And just because we are a little bit different than them, doesn't mean they're not behaving like humans, since we
Right.
are like 50,000 years together, right?
Well, now Gaetan has a question that he wants to ask, and uh, I think that this is a really good question, Gaetan.
My question, listening to both Billy and Roman, is that possible to have a dog unlearn something to learn something new?
Or is it like riding a bike?
Well, okay, in that extension, is that mean he learns he if he unlearns something, a behavior or a way to interact, he learn a new way to interact, then as Kathy just insinuate, is the old behavior will come back later. So that's a
Okay.
That's maybe a tricky question. It's not a tricky question. Just I'm curious about it.
Your
And people
thoughts, Billy?
goes like,
I love that question. I think it's great. Yeah. So what I do is build a skill set first, and that skill set is built outside of the negative or unwanted or challenging situation or unwanted behavior. So we are changing the dog's mindset. Gosh, I'm back on the separation anxiety, but I also want to address Gaetan. Yeah, I had some other stuff for the separation anxiety, but with Gaetan's question, what is interesting is the first thing that we do is change the dog's perception of the people. So when that happens, we build skill sets, and those skill sets change the dog's behavior because it changes perception. I know that sounds really confusing, but there's one interesting point is it is a little bit like people can regress. We call it regressing. So they might have an eating disorder and they get over that eating disorder, but they can go and fall back. And so what they'll do is go back to the basic concepts that work, go back to what worked originally. Additionally, a dog could view the person that's worked with them and has built these skill set and built this relationship and built this way of communicating and these exercises. And so when they're with that person, they don't do the unwanted behavior, or they don't have the fear or the anxiety. But then they'll go with somebody else, or let's say maybe one of the family members travels a lot for work and then comes back very sporadically. The dog will be different with that person because they view that person as not having the same communication, not having the same skill set, not knowing how to communicate with them. So it's not that the dog regressed. It's that the dog doesn't view that person as knowing how to communicate and work with them.
Doesn't understand them. Right.
Just doesn't. Yeah. And people do the same thing, right? We don't feel everybody has the same ability to communicate with us the same way. So we'll see it as a regression. But in actual fact, those other people that are now starting to work with that dog needs to do those main basic platform skills as well. So they can regress, but it has to be their choice to change the behavior. And that's where your CBT comes in, because you know what? I actually do it with people as well. So let's say my client,
I was relating to it. Yeah, as a person.
I know. It's so
one.
My clients will show up with a prong collar, say, on their dog to our live session. And instead of telling them that it's wrong to use a prong collar, we work with them, build skills, work with the dog. I provide them with the skills that they need. And then they, you know what? Show up at the next session and they don't have the prong collar. Right?
Yay.
So that's...
Yeah. So it's training the people too, of course.
Well, it's that idea of providing people and dogs with skill sets that allow them to make decisions and change their behavior on their own, instead of telling, which goes back to what Roman was saying, instead of telling them that their feelings are wrong or what they're thinking or what they're doing is wrong. And there's so many rules in dog training. Yeah. But you know what? You can't tell people things are wrong if they're struggling. They need to have the skill set to work with their dog, and then they will by choice not use the prong collar. And that's the same with dogs. They will by choice not feel the need to lunge and bark or bite or be afraid or pee out of fear. So you have to address the reason for it. So when you go back to Jade, I don't remember the woman's name, but I remember the dog's name. The dog was Jade with the separation anxiety.
Oh,
right. So yes, that dog's 6 years old. And for one thing, I'd like to say congratulations on keeping that dog. A lot of people might have been frustrated and not sure what to do and have surrendered that dog or given up on that dog. And that's great. So, thanks, Sebastian. So that's a little Mexican street dog. So I think Roman's point on why are we putting that dog in the crate? If if it's chewing or fear, maybe we want to address that. So I will start, if standard crate training doesn't work, which obviously it doesn't in Jade's case, then we build the skills completely separately. Nothing to do with the crate, nothing to do with when she's leaving. We build skill set at that time. And what we're doing is we're changing Jade's perception of her and her ability to change routine, her ability to calmly manage all situations, of which leaving becomes one of those. And then we transfer those skill sets over. Separation anxiety in general, cognitive behavioral therapy is proven to be quite effective with, and I have can have a very quick success rate with it. It's very odd.
And I understand
it because they focus on the crate training.
Yeah.
But we have to think, often as we're going through this, in a couple of days, the dog will decide, yeah, you know what, I do like the crate. I could care less will you come or go. Or I don't need the crate and I don't need to be in it. But we can't focus on leaving, and we can't focus on the crate training. We focus on the skill set that is then applied. And that can take a very short period of time.
Okay. So now that we have you here, Billie, we're going to talk about, let's look at some of the dogs that you've worked with. Okay. Now, who is this?
This is Tulsa. This is actually the sister of the doggy. Oh, where am I? I'm backwards here, of the doggy in the background here. Okay.
Yeah. Now, this is what she looked like originally, right?
Yeah, that was even after a bath and a bit of food. She was very scrawny, very thin.
So how were you able to help her?
She came from a spay and neuter clinic that I was volunteering at. So did her brother in Mexico. So she had lived on the streets. So she came up to Canada with me from that spay and neuter clinic. And, well, as Roman pointed out, getting the health as well, the physical health. And then she was quite nervous of people, quite nervous of situations. She wasn't reactive or biting. She just really wasn't taking on any new friends and wasn't big on people. She ended up choosing her own home, which I absolutely love her story. It's long, so I won't get into it. But she ended up choosing her own people in her own home, who happened to be clients of mine from a death row dog that they took in, that I ended up rehabbing for them. He was really aggressive. And so she ended up choosing them as her people. And so she's quite happy now. And she does live in a small town, so she doesn't deal with super busy situations, but she did come to her and all those, the aggressive one included, came to my book signing event, which was held at a dog-friendly pub. And she ended up coming, and she did very well. So she's coming along well. She loves her new home. She's great.
Okay. So what about her now, or him?
That's Cuba. She came from Spain. She's a galgo from Spain. So they are trained to hunt the rabbits, which is interesting because we have rabbits all over Regina, where we have free running rabbits like other people have squirrels. So it's interesting to bring the rabbit hunters here. Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
So I keep reading what these people are. It's great.
Well, yeah, you should. You should read them.
Oh,
great. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure how that works.
This is the audience.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone. So yeah, the galgos are extremely fast. Obviously, they're trained for, and they have a different history than the street dogs. They're interesting to work with. I've worked more with street dogs who are using their cognitive skills to stay alive on the street, how they learn to eat, right? Whereas I find the galgos and other dogs that are used for sport or hunting, those ones are often based on tradition. At the end of a hunting season, if they don't do well, they are killed in not pleasant ways. They're commonly hung from trees, and the lower they're hung, the worse they did. So that, anyway, or they're dragged behind trucks, or they're just tossed off of cliffs and things like that. So there's rescue organizations that take them in, and then we bring them to Canada, and also they're brought to the States. There's great rescue organizations for these galgos, and they are different because they were trained for a specific task, a skill, And then they were kept in confined areas and fed. So they weren't using a lot of their cognitive skills in the same way that street dogs were. They have a different mindset. They're coming from a different place of thinking. They often, as with street dogs, have never been in a home. Sometimes those, they're called galguras, the ones who hold, some of them are very great to them and have them in their home and treat them as family pets and treat them well. But for the ones that are coming to Canada, no, they weren't. So their cognitive abilities are different. Their skill sets are different. So we're actually have to reach those and find those.
Okay.
So it's a different way of working with them, but they can make great pets. People love them. This is the spay and neuter clinic. It's like a MASH unit. It's just crazy. But there were thousands of dogs that went through that. It was 9 days, I believe, 9 or 10 days, about 14 hours a day. I ran the second recovery. So when the dogs were coming out of being out of the anesthetic after having the surgery, that's the area that I ran.
Okay, and this is a sad story, but a good story at the end.
Another Mexican. This dog was helped by Help to Loom Dogs in Mexico. Her name's Sky, and she came to Canada. One of my clients brought her up, actually. I arranged for the transfer from Help to Loom Dogs, run by Kathy Corelli. Got her to the airport and got her up, and that's her with me in our walking in Saskatchewan.
This is the after.
Yeah, she's just a very smart, very, very smart dog. And I homed her in a very special home with a couple. They had cats. They're very dog knowledgeable. This is Lido, same rescue, actually. He's a fun dog. He was very fun. No, I don't know if he was the smartest dog, but he was the greatest dog. Super fun. I ended up homing him with a bunch of dogs and cats and just a wonderful man. I mean, smart's a funny thing, right? That's a whole topic unto itself. But he was just a very fun dog. Went to the off-leash park. I think we have an after of him. Do we?
Yep, yeah. There he is. Yeah.
And curly tail, curly little tail. Very fun boy.
Yeah. And who's this guy?
This is Brooke. She was slated for death because of aggression to dogs. So and she had high anxiety and very reactive to dogs. Used in an attempt for fighting. So she now lives with other dogs and is happy. She lives with another pit bull, and it's great. She's very happy. She was a bit of a lengthy go. But it did come around. This is little Petey. Riviera Rescue got Petey. He was a scrawny little, very emaciated little dog. So he's up in Canada now. He lives with, 4 Chihuahuas or something. And he had some house training issues, but we got over them very quickly, actually. This is Domingo. I scooped him off the street in Mexico when I was down there volunteering again, a different time. He had a bum back leg. He got hit by a car. He was living on the streets, as Roman said, and I think the last one, where they live in smaller packs. He was with 2 other dogs that were doing well on the street, but he wasn't. And it was amazing. Those 2 dogs just looked at me, and I knew that they were saying, he's got to get taken. He's not going to make it. And took him to the vet, and he had about 2 days to live. So he's now living up here in Canada in a home with friends of my clients.
Okay, so all of these dogs are dogs that you have worked with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They all required some amount, but they're all in homes and they're all happy. They're not clients' dogs. They're rescue, but I have hundreds of clients' dogs. This is actually a client dog. He's from the Korean meat market. So they're called sapsuris, and he had high anxiety. So he lives with a client. He wasn't one of my own rescues. She has a couple. She actually took one of my Mexican rescues as well. She has a number of cats, dogs. She's a wonderful woman. So he had very high anxiety. She lives downtown in a city, so just wouldn't walk, wouldn't leave the home, would go days without pooing. She was very experienced in conditioning methods. She's very dog educated. And her other dogs take the conditioning methods, whereas Radar took to CBT really quickly.
Wow. And who's
That's,
this guy?
this is the one I have now. I got her from Costa Rica. I brought up 5 dogs on a rescue mission down there. And so she's still with me. She's actually right here. And she's older when I got her, quite old. She lived on the streets a long time. She obviously has eye issues and she's starting to go deaf. Super friendly, very smart, very good, just very sweet dog. This is the other one that Radar's mom took. This one was through the homing project in Project Home Sweet Home in Mexico. Oh, funny little guy. He's got quite the personality. This is my main one. My first. This is Chance. My first. She was my soulmate. The only dog I've had from puppy, and got her in Texas. She was with me 13 years, and she taught me everything I know. Her, along with a couple other dogs.
Yeah.
Just a few other 100 dogs.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
This is Windy. She came from the reserves of northern Saskatchewan, rescued by a local rescue here. CT Rescue. Actually, I think this one was a pack project. Or, gosh, I should really know this, but I help out a lot of the rescues or take their dogs. And I work with a lot of clients who have adopted from those. She was used for the fighting. There's a problem with the dog fighting in northern Saskatchewan. But Windy is now living with one other dog in Saskatchewan. She had some reactivity towards dogs. Got that fixed. Yeah. So there's just every issue, every problem, and some dogs are right off the street and there's no issues. They just fit right into their home and off they go.
Exactly. So we know now that your mission and what you're trying to achieve. And one of the things that I heard you say is that you have a book that just came out.
Yeah, I did. Well, my book came out a while ago, but I decided to edit it based on feedback because I think people should listen to feedback.
Okay, I'm going to put the link to Billie's.
So it has more on cognitive behavioral therapy. It has more on the difference between puppies and dogs, how puppies learn versus how dogs learn, and how I think that should be more part of mainstream dog education, where we really, instead of just giving generic advice, general coffee shop advice that's commonly effective with puppies, but not with dogs. And this should be more well known. And I talk about the change in mindset, which Roman talks about a lot. Teach it easy, apply to hard, deal with the reason for the behavior, not the behavior itself. Less controlling, fewer rules. There's the whole dominance. Right. So I talk about that. It's not a training book. It changes the mindset. So I changed the cover and I put in some more information. So it's the second edition is coming out, and that's coming out right about now, actually, in the next couple of days. So that's on Amazon and with my publisher, Friesen Press.
Okay, very, very nice. And I got to go back to some of our questions here now. Dale said, let's go back to about the retraining question with Gaetan. He says, sometimes the dogs need retraining. It worked on my hero, because I know, Roman, you worked with Dale and Hero. And then Sebastian wrote, let's see, she lived to remain. He was writing about his Appleite was abused severely. When she found me, she bit me ferociously. I was all bloody. She did not trust anyone. She thought everyone wanted to beat her up. And then that's when he wrote, she lived remaining 2.5 years of her life like a princess who learned to trust humans again and love back. All I had to do was be patient and love her nonstop. So
that's an interesting point. If I can just,
sure.
Patience, it's very big right now. We need patience, and productive patience is even better. And I think, a lot of my clients, they do have patience and they are trying and they have compassion, but they can feel that what they're doing is not working, or it really isn't.
It's enough.
Not enough. Yeah, it's not enough. And so when we work together and they get the skill set, and not all dogs need that much time and patience. And yes, everyone should have it, but realistically, there's a lot of people who don't adopt and they don't foster because they feel that it will take too long. 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, and they have to have all this patience and compassion, and you don't. My integration program, which is the first 4 to 10 days of bringing a dog in, makes all the difference in the world. And it's not based on sitting back or waiting or rules. And you hear people say, well, they need discipline or they need boundaries. I don't feel that's the way to go. With puppies, yes, absolutely. And with some dogs, yes, but they also don't want you to just sit back and be patient and do nothing. There is that middle ground where we're providing guidance and direction, and we're learning what they know. And we're using the formula that we work through to read the dogs and to communicate and provide and build that bond. As soon as that happens, people become more patient.
That's true. That's
They
very,
will,
very
when they see progress. So as much as Sebastian did that, and it's great, it's not realistic for everybody. And then they blame themselves and they feel badly because they had to give back the dog. And there's just no need for that. If this integration process was mainstream, more people, I think, would be. The people are just, as we talked about last session or last episode, they're just maybe uncomfortable or nervous, and they want the best for the dog, but they don't feel that they have. Yeah, way to go, Sebastian. Yep, no rules or boundaries, communication. Yeah,
He
yeah.
says we're all angels, and I love you for what you, for the dogs you all rock. Oh, thanks, Dale.
Thanks, Dale. You
Thanks.
too.
Yeah, well, Billy, again, we have more than we could talk with you about. We're going to have you on the show again, not next week. Next week is Thanksgiving. But I want you to stick around because I want to introduce you to, lifelong friend of mine, just like Gaetan. This is Lou Cataruza, for those of you that don't know him. Lou, hi, Lou.
Hi, good morning, Lou.
Hello, everyone. Great to see you all.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Lou.
This is Billie Gloom. I know you've been listening to the
Hi,
show
Billy.
backstage.
I have been. I love.
Hi, Lou.
I love the conversation. I love especially the idea that that the idea of being able to give all of that love to the dogs that you give. That it's the love, the connection, that love connection that is so important. I use a similar conversation about children.
Yes.
Because my aim is for children between the ages of 4 and 12 to learn the joy of a contributing mindset, being able to care for the dogs in a way where they recognize that when they do that, they're actually making themselves be better, so that they can discipline themselves into taking care of their pets. It's important to have that contributing mindset. I think as a dog owner, people should recognize the value. Yesterday I was watching six. I think it was one of the programs that was featuring a doctor in Afghanistan. And in Afghanistan, here he was. There are 12 million starving people in Afghanistan, and they're having a tremendous amount of problems. And he was in a ward where prosthetics were being made and were put on them, and you looked at this and saw the overwhelm of the problem. And when was asked by the person that was there viewing this and filming it, it was asked, well, what do you think? How is this affecting you in your job in this environment? And he said, it's the best job I ever had. I get so much joy of being able to contribute to the betterment of these people that and I understand that. It's the conversation Mother Teresa had. It's
Yeah.
the conversation that Jesus had. It's the conversation that when people get that they are wired to be able to recognize and realize the value of a contributing mindset.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and dogs are just so willing to be loved.
Yeah.
And it's such a great connection. And the dog connection is just an incredible way of being able to realize your own magnificent self.
Yeah. Right. So
You know,
Lou, you've got
yes,
to tell us now about, you were on the show before and we
yes,
talked about Brother Claus and
yes,
Sister Claus, and now I'm a Sister Claus too.
yes, you are.
Yeah,
Yes, you
and for those that don't know, I'm going to show you this right now so that you all
are.
can see. This is Brother Claus, and you're going to love what this is all about. Real quick, do you mind if I share what happens?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, all right, hang on here a second. I want to take this off. I'm going to put myself in there. Well, the way this started was that Lou wanted to be able to influence children in how they can connect with a dog, because if they don't take the responsibility, sure, oh, mommy, I really want a dog, I want a dog, and before you know it, they'll say, oh, I'll take care of it, I'll feed it, I'll do this, and they don't. After 2 weeks that the dog is there, all of a sudden the parents are taking care of the dog, and they want to play with it, but they don't want to take responsibility for it. So Lou wrote a book about the best gift I've ever got. And from there, actually, it's a very, very long story. It's a show in itself. But he came up with Brother Claus because people say to him all the time, "You look like Santa Claus," and
And
he
I
tells
do.
them, "No." He tells them, "No, I'm actually his brother, Lou." So he went from there on and thought, you know what? Why can't kids have happiness and joy and be kind to people all the time, and learn how to do that from Santa Claus, in this case Brother Claus, and now Sister Claus. So from that point on, he developed a whole program, and now it's ready to launch. So go ahead, Lou, and say what this is about.
Yeah. So last night, my grandson goes to school, and I gave him. I said, why don't you take a couple of cards with some of my new cards in, my business cards that look something like this, like this. I don't know if you can see it. You see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And in the back says, you get contact us, you get a little gift. And so he gave it out to some people. And here I am at 8 o'clock at night at my friend's house watching a great story, a movie. And I get a call. And he says, Are you Brother Claus? I said, I am. Who's this? I didn't expect it. He says, Is Santa dead? Well, Santa, well, he's not around here, but I am his brother. He says, you are? And there's two little girls. I can't do the little girl voice, but that's what they did. And there they happened to have gotten the card and gave me a call at night. So I said, well, you have to get permission from your parents to call me. You can't call me directly. You first have to go. Okay, so I says, I will. So there I put it down. 15 minutes later, I get a call.
But he's
And
on FaceTime now.
Now I'm on FaceTime with two little girls. And I say, hello, how are you? And I said, well, now, did you get your parent? She said, yes. And then she gives the phone to the father, and the father gets on the phone, and I tell him the initiative, which is that we're interested in teaching children the science of kindness, caring, and gratitude. And they created a program where they can, through the parents, be able to have a 10-minute conversation with a brother or sister Claus. We'll zoom into their home. We'll have a nice little conversation. They'll get a book for free as part of the cost. And then they'll have that to be able to send out to all of their friends and so forth, like a Christmas card, instead of having to go over to Macy's or a mall and sit on Santa's lap. Now you get a living brother or sister Claus to talk to you about not only the value and the power of a contributing mindset, but having really, what is it that you would like for the holidays? What is it that you're giving also to your parent? What would you like to do that? Get them really engaged in that it's not only about getting, it's about giving. And that the spirit, that's what we want to do. We want to teach our children well about that process. And so this is the intention now, is to build a network of brother and sister Clauses that
Yeah.
can be on the website. They can come there and choose who they'd
Ho,
like
ho,
to give.
ho.
Oh, and then of course share that. So I get to write books. I get to speak at events. Especially, I love the idea of going to corporate events, because their brother Claus should come to IBM and talk to their 150,000 people about the importance of having a contributing mindset to your customer, to your clients, to your employees.
Yeah.
Have a socially responsible corporate culture. These are important elements in this world that we need. It's so important that we come together. We're so divided with thoughts where it's all about me, all about greed, all about the things that are just not healthy.
That's
So now
right.
we're talking about creating health, creating a state of being from a contributing mindset that you're wired to be able to cause your well-being to occur when you are in that state of mind. And dogs do a great job of making and putting you in that position, because I can tell every one of you have a smile. You love doing what you do.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm always so pleased to see you guys continue doing this effort. It's such a wonderful thing. Really, really wonderful.
Okay. Thank you, Lou. Thank you. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Lou.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks, Billy, for sticking with us through that.
That was great.
Lou has been a friend of ours for a long time, and we really welcome. So to end our show, I was going to do a little video, but I think we've gone a little bit too far. We'll do that for next week. And any last thoughts now, Gaetan?
Keep learning from your dog, learning what they need and learning what you can provide to them.
Okay, Roman, last thoughts.
We have to see dogs as sentient beings. We need to kind of consciously work around let's put it the other way around. I would say we should let go of the idea that we're treating animals and switch back to the idea that we're treating mammals just like we are. And we should dare leaving the past and the taboo of comparing dogs with children, because it blocks us of opening our mind into treatment methods. We know so much about children and how to treat similar behaviors, and we just close ourselves up and we put ourselves in a corner, not being able to apply those methods to dogs because somebody told us we should not compare dogs with children
Right.
and children with dogs. And I'm not comparing the physical form of a dog and a child. We're comparing these individual beings that have not created a personality yet, that need our support to get away from trauma, learn from their environment, and being nurtured into a new future potential they can get. And we should see behavior therapists as an important piece. And it's sad that we need the behavior therapist. Parents should know those skills themselves. And Bill and I and many other people out there who do this pioneer work to open people's mindset is, hey, this is a bigger picture. It's not just conditioning. It's not just giving the dog treats. It's not about punishing the dog. It's about understanding the dog's needs and his place in the family, since dogs are so social beings, just like we are, that are so different to other species out there. And so we have to see that combination. And me personally, and don't take it with a grain of salt, I do not believe that dogs evolved with the idea that we think from wolves, the way we think. So there's more complicated to that. As we didn't evolve from the apes in that way that we think of
Right.
it.
Yeah.
It's just we just cannot prove differently. But just because we cannot prove differently doesn't mean there's another option there.
Right.
We have so many things in common with dogs, we cannot deny it. We have more
Right.
common, dogs have more common things with us than apes have with us. And that's
Right.
the kind of an open-minded thought.
And you know what, you're absolutely right in bringing the dogs into our family, which we totally advocate 100% on this show, that connection, getting that really strong connection from your heart to the dog, it will bring you so much happiness in the long run. Okay, Billie, last thoughts?
Wow. I feel like I talked a lot, and I so appreciate this opportunity. It was so, it's so easy to speak with all of you. You're all so great, and Lou had such a great, and your listeners and their input, and wow, it was really, really good. And I really appreciate that. And to go a little bit on what Roman said, and the other person asking about their trainers, well, we do need to change that mindset and bring more options for dogs into how we work with them and relate to them and communicate with them and bring them into our lives and be open-minded to that.
Yeah.
So I just really appreciate the opportunity to spread awareness, and anyone who is interested in learning more or collaborating, I really just appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much. And I know we'll keep in touch. I'm hoping that we'll keep in touch.
How can we
Roman.
reach Billie? How can we reach Billie? We need that.
I put a link in the description.
Okay.
Okay, UpwardDogology.com.
And I'm on LinkedIn. Thank you, Roman. I know I forget to do that all the time. I'm on LinkedIn, Billie Gloom, and on Instagram, it's Upward Dogology, Twitter, Upward Dogology, Facebook, Upward Dogology. You can email me, Billie@upwarddogology.com.
Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We next week is Thanksgiving, so I anticipate that Gaetan and and Roman will come up with a good show for Thanksgiving, probably about gobble gobble.
Shaving turkeys.
Oh,
We'll have something to be thankful for.
yes, we sure will.
I will be there in the
Thank
audience, sending in little
notes.
Okay. All right. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you, Billie.
See you next
Thank
week.
you, Roman. Thank you, Kathy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, Roman. Bye, Kathy. Bye, Gabe.